Aloha! You are watching Living Delicious with Helena, our wonderful favorite segment about death. Die Delicious. This is our part 2 with a famous doctor, Dr. Robert Nathanson. Aloha, Robert.
Aloha.
Thank you for coming for the part 2.
My pleasure.
We had you on the first part talking about death with dignity, you being as the leader of the Hawaiian physicians willing to prescribe, how should I call it, lethal dose of drugs to end with dignity the life of a terminally ill patient. And I really enjoyed that segment. I love that no matter from which angle I came to try to put you in the corner, you just own your presence. And I really like that feeling because it shows that you really know what you're talking about. And if they want to put you in a jail, as we said, your wife and I will come with some nail files to help you out.
Good.
So today, this aspect I would like to talk about you as one of the founders or the founder of Hawaii Hospice.
Co-founder.
Co-founder. So when was that, and what was in Hawaii before, and how did you come up with that idea? What happened?
Well, I didn't come up with the idea. A lady named Dame Cecily Saunders in England came up with it. And actually, she didn't come up with it either because it's been around since the 11th century.
No, I mean to have a hospice in Hawaii.
Well, that's okay. I thought we would trace the history.
Let's
if you
trace
want.
the history.
Shall we?
Why not?
All right. Well, hospice, H-O-S-P-I-C-E, comes from the Latin hospes, H-O-S-P-E-S, which means host and guest, and it means hospitality. And back in the 11th century, where the first mention of this is that it was actually way stations where travelers would stop to rest, and if they were sick, they would be taken care of, and people that would die there. And that's where the hospice originally came from. Then it was, Cecily Saunders was a nurse, and she saw the need for some kind of attention to be paid to dying people, but she wasn't getting anywhere, and somebody said to her, if you want to do something and be effective, you better go to medical school and get your degree in medicine. And she did that, and she founded St. Christopher's Hospice in London. And that became...
was when?
I'm sorry?
That was when?
I believe it was something like 1967.
Really? That was the first hospice in Europe?
Well, modern hospice. There have been some buildings and whatever that have been for dying people.
Buildings.
But actually, that's one of the important messages, is that hospice isn't a building, it's a philosophy of how you deal with end of life.
Exactly. I wanted to ask you about that because as you were talking about the Latin word hospice, hospital,
yeah.
what is the difference?
No, it's the same root. Yes.
But then what's the difference in the philosophy, as you said, of two different organizations?
Well, a hospital is a place that you go to be cured, and a hospice is some place that you end up dying, and the emphasis is on palliation, which is comfort care. And you try to make the patient as comfortable as possible, but the emphasis is not, there is no emphasis on curing.
I see.
And
I see.
So when the people in the United States heard about how successful Cecily Saunders was in London. They founded hospices across the country. It first started, my understanding is, in the first hospice in the United States was in New Haven, Connecticut, and then the next one jumped all the way across, and it was in Marin County in California. And then people here in Hawaii heard about this, and we got together and came up with Hospice Hawaii after over a year of planning and so forth.
When was that exactly in Hawaii?
It was 1979, or at least Hospice Hawaii. There's also St. Francis Hospice.
Was that before?
It was almost simultaneously. I believe St. Francis beat us to it by a little bit, but I'm a little hazy on that. But that's over 30 years ago.
Yeah. So is that one of the first hospices in the United States as well?
Here? No.
One of the first.
But considering
first 20 or so.
Yeah, there are hundreds and hundreds of them
right now.
We were one in the top 100, I guess.
Top 100, I see.
Okay.
So the question is, you said Cecily was successful. What was she successful at? Having people die successfully? What? I don't understand. Successful at dying, it's a little oxymoron for my brain.
Well, okay, I don't blame you. That in people for years, when you were diagnosed as terminal, they were put in a back room someplace, and nobody ever looked at them. And from the nurses, the doctors, it was terrible. And she brought out and made it something that was not just ignored, but actually emphasized, that to make sure that these people got the best care possible. And in that she succeeded, because that was the emphasis, was on dying patients being made comfortable. And in fact, it was because of hospice there is now a specialty called palliative care that nobody ever heard of that. There wasn't any such thing, and because of hospice, they realized that they needed people that were experts at palliative care.
Wow. What do they do? If somebody is dying, how do they die differently? What is palliative care? Well, if we were to film with the camera, how would that look like?
Well, every patient would be different, because depending upon your cancer and depending upon where it is and so forth, pain could be the biggest thing, lack of appetite, lack of, well, not lack of, but having nausea, all these different symptoms that need to be relieved, and that's not easy. When a person is riddled with cancer, it can be just terrible.
Excruciating, yes.
Excruciating, yes.
So what is the palliative care for that kind of patient?
Well, as I said, not everything is pain. Pain is the thing that most people think of.
But pain can be modified with morphine.
Yes.
But for example, problems with breathing.
You have to
coughing.
You have to know the correct dose, and it isn't that simple, and that's why we have palliative care specialists.
I see.
And the difficulty that arises in different cases from one day to the next, the person can be totally different.
It could actually sometimes maybe, does it consider palliative care just somebody holding your hand, being there with you?
I'm afraid that the doctors wouldn't consider that.
Because if I'm really dying and I have enough painkillers that it is it. I'm just there laying, waiting for my moment. I'd rather be with somebody having some affection and connection than just being all alone. But that part is not considered palliative care.
Well, okay, I was going to say that palliative, what I was using the expression palliation was what a doctor could do to relieve symptoms. What you're talking about is what hospice is all about, is that the person isn't just a pain in the back or whatever. They're human beings that need comfort and care and attention and holding a hand. So that is where the hospice has, it's a multidisciplinary outfit, if you want to call. There is a doctor, there is a nurse, but there's also a minister. There are volunteer visitors that just go to the home to relieve the caretakers so that they can go out, do some errands, take in a movie, do something so that they have some respite. So there are social workers that are handling things that the family gets into, and to try to relieve that kind of emotional pain.
Yes.
The physical pain is relatively simple with, as you say, with the morphine and other narcotic drugs. But the emotional pain, what am I going to do for my what is going to be done with my children? Financial worries,
yes.
all these things.
Yeah.
Hospice takes those into consideration because it's a whole person, not just cancer. It's
yes.
or other disease that's killing them. It's,
I had a Juliet from Compassionate Choices here on the show, and she was explaining about those details and really inviting people to come and call Compassionate Choices. They have a hotline that they will give all this information necessary to families of a dying person. So please, if you have any inquiries about that, search for Compassion and Choices Hawaii, Compassion and Choices hi.org, and find out. You will get so many information that will really help you in these moments of transitions. And thanks to you, you were basically one of the founders. So can you tell us about the difference between dying in a hospice, dying at home, dying in hospital?
Well, there's all the difference in the world. And most people, when asked where they would like to die, it would be at home.
Yes.
And whereas in a hospital, you've got all these tubes running in you, and it's not exactly conducive to dignity. It's not very dignified. But even with hospice care, which is mainly in the home, sometimes the family just can't deal with it, and so there is a facility in which they can go for excuse me, for respite care, and that is very helpful to the family, gives them a break.
So I would like to ask a specific practical question. If I understand every case is different, every life, every death is different. If somebody is dying from certain disease, what is the most common disease people in Hawaii die from?
Oh, well, cancer is the one that...
And then heart.
But heart disease is the one that most people die from, but they don't go into... They're not considered terminal most of the time. You can have heart failure, which then... And
then you die having sex. How does it get even better than that? Isn't it fun?
Delicious, delicious.
Hello.
Hello. But the one that's the most common in hospice is cancer.
So let's say a person with cancer. I know you cannot probably give me exact answer, but I would like to know about the costs to a family of that dying person, how much would it cost for the person to die in a hospital, to die in a hospice, and to do death with dignity option with a pill?
Oh, since most of my career was with Kaiser, I don't know the expense in a hospital because all my patients were insured by Kaiser. So if they are insured,
everything is covered by the hospital, yes. by the insurance company, yeah. 100%.
It would depend mostly.
Mostly, okay.
There are co-pays and so forth, but for the most part, today people have insurance, and without it, it's just incredibly expensive.
Yeah, it's expensive to live, it's expensive to die. What do you choose?
Believe it. You better believe it.
And then, how about hospice costs?
Hospice will cost absolutely nothing if you remain at home. If you need to go to the hospice facility, it's something like $200 a day.
What do you mean it would cost nothing if you remain at home? Will somebody come to your home and take care of you?
Yes.
How many hours a day?
The visiting nurse would come, check you over, and just order different things. You get a hospital bed and a commode and different things to make you more comfortable. But hospice is covered by, hospice gets reimbursed if the patient is over 65 by Medicare. And a lot of the medical insurances also cover hospice care, but not the hospice facility.
So facility with or without insurance would be about $200 a day.
My understanding.
What is the average of days a person stays in a hospice from the time they enter until they die?
Unfortunately, not long enough. They have what they call Friday afternoon referrals.
What's that?
And that's when the family realizes that they're not going to be able to deal with the situation. Comes Friday afternoon to get through the weekend, they pick up the phone and they call hospice, and it doesn't give hospice enough time to really do their thing as well as they can. They would like to be notified maybe a month ahead of time, and that way they can get everything in place. They can get the visiting nurses, visiting people to give bed baths and all this comfort care.
So actually the process starts by calling Compassionate Choices or hospices?
No, for hospice, you call Hospice Hawaii.
And then they first start doing in-home care.
That's right.
And then if there is a need, they transfer you to the facility.
Most of the majority of patients in hospice start at home and end at home. They don't ever use the facility. Hospice Hawaii was in business for a number of years before we ever had a facility, because it is mainly geared to do what patients want, which is to die in their own bed, in their own home. And we do the best we can to facilitate that. But there is a facility.
Where is the facility? Where is Hospice Hawaii?
Hospice Hawaii has a facility in Kailua, and there's another one very close, not Palolo, or in Palolo, off of 10th Avenue.
Okay. And how many beds each facility has, do you know?
It's less than 10, I believe.
Oh, just a small little facility.
Yeah, because there are not many people avail themselves of it or need it.
How many people die in Hawaii every day or every month, every week, every year? How do you... Through hospices, maybe, I should say.
I don't know that.
I should actually Google this. Yes, because I'm dying. I'm dying. I am dying.
You're dying to know.
And I'm dying to know, and
There
I'm
you
looking
go.
forward to learn that.
Okay.
I see. So, what about death with dignity? First of all, I would like to know a question I didn't ask you in the first segment. Why you, as a doctor who was working with dying patients, how did you get to that idea that you are willing to even consider prescribing lethal drugs? In one of your articles that just came in Star Advertising, you said you saw people really suffer and begging you for, doctor, give me something.
Yep.
So can you tell us, if this is not too painful for you, can you tell us about some of the experiences?
Well, the way I got into hospice was through a patient who was diagnosed with lung cancer, and she had read about Cecily Saunders' success in London, and she, one visit, said to me, or asked me, would I be willing to treat her like this hospice business? And I said, I'm not aware of what that is, and tell me about it. And she did, and then they didn't have Google in those days, but I did the best I could Googling whatever, non-Googling, and found out about it. And I said, I'll do my best. I can't promise you. Now this is not to give a lethal dose, because that particular person never asked me for that. But because we kept her as comfortable as possible. One of the tenets that we have here in Hawaii, we have paying patients' Bill of Rights, which says that, in effect, that it is all right for a doctor to give increasing doses of medicine as long as it's required for pain control, even if it might lead to premature death, because the goal is to make the patient comfortable.
Yes.
So the idea of me prescribing a lethal dose of medicine, up until I heard about the 1909 law, I wouldn't do it, because it was illegal.
Yes.
And I would lose my license and go to jail.
Yes, but how did it feel? I've seen several dying people, because I grew up in war. I was a child, I was 15, but it was so hard for me to watch. How does it feel to watch people?
Well,
in your case, even as a doctor?
I think it's doubly bad, because you would have no way of doing anything, so you wouldn't feel guilty about it. I had the capability, the knowledge, and the capability of doing something about it.
But your hands were...
my hands were tied, exactly.
I see.
So it was very, very frustrating, extremely frustrating.
Wow.
And that's why I said, when I retired, I'm going to keep up my license, and someday, hopefully, the legislature will pass it, and I would be able to then utilize that law to help people.
And so now, to close this question about cost, what would be approximate cost about choosing that option?
The medication right now that we use is what we call a short-acting barbiturate, either Seconal or Nembutal, and it is extremely expensive. The dose that I would use would cost over $1,000.
But then if you compare, this is 5 days in hospice?
Exactly.
Or,
yeah,
we can always compare with something.
Well, Yes, in that respect.
Or how much does it cost one day in a hospital? $1,000.
Yeah, well,
at least.
I'm just
depends if you are.
The reason why
ICU.
I say that because I remember there was a time when these medicines were given routinely. They were the sleeping pills back when I started practicing medicine, and nobody uses them.
Didn't Marilyn Monroe use that?
I'm sorry.
Marilyn Monroe, didn't she use that?
Probably, and that's why they don't use it, because it is potentially lethal, and whereas they have medicines today that are much safer.
Would anything of that be covered by the insurance?
Not if it's. I don't think so.
You don't think so? So this is out of the pocket.
Out of pocket.
Out of the will.
90% of patients in Oregon that avail themselves of the medicine were already in hospice, and hospice won't pay for it. I know that. Yeah. They'll pay for all your other medications.
Wow. You know, I actually, now as we are talking about it more in depth about costs and other things, I have so many questions coming up in my head, and we are running out with time. We have 1 minute left. So for next time, I would really like to bring a camera crew to one of your dying patients who are willing to take the drug, the pills, and if they want to be filmed for 5 minutes or so, just to have a little information with them, and if you are willing to do that, if you want to arrange, I think it would be interesting for our viewers and get this thing in Hawaii really set down.
Okay, I would be willing. The thing would obviously be up to the patient.
Yes, of course. Keep us posted.
Okay.
And thank you so much for coming to the show. I really appreciate you. I love your energy. Thank you. See you next time. In the meantime, live delicious, die delicious. Every Saturday at 11:30, Channel 49, and every first and third Monday of the month, 6 p.m., Channel 52. Living Delicious with Helena and Dr. Nate.
Aha!